Dear Don Lemon and dear Chris Cuomo, how you guys doing? You guys are not going to get this until well after the day anyways. But I'm hoping so. 20 years are coming up from 9/11. Right now it's September 9th, 2021. It's 7:33 Pacific Standard Time on the East Coast. Actually on the West Coast right now. 20 years ago, guys, I'd seen it on television on the West Coast. I wasn't there at Ground Zero when it blew up. I had done videos talking about this damn thing. I have been doing audio recordings to talk about this thing. For 20 years, I have been trying to deal with this. Before my brother passed away, I'll show the picture that you see. It's my mother and my brother down below. Both are gone. My brother had seen it, and he lost a friend of his, Port Authority traffic officer. He was working in the Trade Center when it hit. My brother found out about a week later, and it tore his ass. Well, actually, he didn't find out about a week later. He saw it happen as his friend died in front of him. And one of the levels that they actually had in the World Trade Center, the Port Authority kept an office in there. And I wish to God I knew what my brother's friend was named. He told me once I lost it a long time ago. It was years and years ago. And he hadn't talked about it ever since, not even up until the point he passed away. My brother passed away in 2018. Still dealing with that loss, left and right. A lot of videos, a lot of self-therapy in this one. Still going through it. My brother and I, in the past 20 years, had tried to see it. Actually, my brother kept refusing to see the 9/11 films that they keep producing left and right. Trying to teach new generations of what the hell went on. We saw the whole thing happening in front of our eyes. Scared to let the crap out of us. My brother was former military, but he was disabled, where there's no way in hell he was going back into the military. So he stayed out of it. And every time they kept showing the films of 9/11, every time they kept showing it, it tore his mind apart left and right. Every time I kept seeing it, I kept having nightmares all over. National Geographic did a special on it quite recently. Videos that we hadn't seen. If my brother was still alive and my brother was actually able to see it without having a conniption set, maybe he would have seen his friend and really have a conniption set. And I saw it. All several chapters they had of it. I saw it this past weekend. Mr. Lemon, Mr. Cuomo. Sometimes you guys would prefer your first names being used, but out of respect. My brother passed away on September 8th, 2018. On Star Trek. But a few days earlier, when we had the weekend going on, the Labor Day, I was watching. There was no way in hell I would be able to think about anything else but mourning for my brother, and then also having PTSD flashbacks regarding 9/11. If my brother had died after 9/11, that's one thing. He died before that, so it's like, Drake, I gotta deal with double headers here. It's hard to deal with emotional roller coasters like this. I'm 55 years old. I live in Roseman County. Several years ago, I had a workers' comp accident that screwed me over mentally and physically. These days, I go to school, community college. I was walking on campuses until COVID decided to rear its ugly head. So now I'm doing the online version. I'm a candidate for May of this year, but I was a candidate for the COVID virus. I just never gave myself the permission of getting this son of a zero. And buying a hell of a lot of these damn things, these custom made craps, and then these damn things, even worse, at my local drugstore. But they're necessary. When the shots came out in April, I skipped out for about a few weeks because I got scared of needles. I hate needle sticks. I've had major psych issues regarding this. But I decided that the COVID bug was a hell of a lot worse and my health was more of a priority. But also me not turning into a typhoid Mary or carrier of sorts. That was even more unnerving. That's why I had to get the vaccinations I did. If they come out with another booster, I'll be taking it. The thing of it is, I'm doing it for everybody around me, not to mention my own health. I'm 55 years old. I'm suffering through type 2 diabetes at this point over here. I've got other medical conditions I've inherited from my genetic bloodline that have yet reared its ugly looking head. And I'd rather not go through it. But it is an open door, despite the fact that I may be vaccinated by this damn bug, that I'll still be able to get this damn bug. That's what still scares me. It's the Pfizer. But still. This is hard to deal with because we have to deal with people's attitudes, we have to deal with their thoughts and their feelings, and their personal beliefs. And not to mention the misconceptions, as we all know, that they're pretty damn nuts, I'm going to say. And every time there was a major vaccination program happening over here, we had people saying, no, you can't do that to me because I'm American. I guess what people keep forgetting is that when we actually had the pandemic over a century ago, we also had people all over the world being affected by a damn flu bug that nobody actually had any immunity to. We didn't have any immunizations for this damn flu. And it was killing people left and right. And because of the stigma that we've got regarding the COVID as it being somewhat of an airborne virus, just like flu, it's flu bug. Some people actually have an immune system that may be stronger than others, and they may have got a glancing blow of the thing and thinking that, okay, fine, now I got the antibodies, I'm totally immune, I'm going to be healthy over this damn thing. And what we find out is when they start ending up in the ICU beds left and right, on the way to the hereafter. That's what scares the hell out of me, losing friends and family over this damn thing. Some of my own genetic bloodline and extended family members don't even believe in it. And if they did, they're still not comfortable with getting stabbed, let alone tested. They don't like the idea of masking up. And the thing of it is, I have to keep reminding these guys it's not specifically for them. It's for everybody else around them. As the medical establishment kept trying to educate us, we don't know if we're going to be the carriers on this damn thing or not, and we don't know if we're going to get it or not unless we get the symptoms. It usually takes about a week or two, correct? Roughly during that time. So during that time, we've already got a beachhead walking around wherever neighborhoods we're going into. And we're passing it off left and right without us realizing the damn thing. I know we can also do the same thing for the rhinovirus. We can also do that for the influenza. Also for the norovirus. You see how the distinctions are at this point over here? People are kind of linking these things in together. The flu we get every year, well, we have to get annual flu shots because sometimes the variants differ, and then we have to get the serums matching up with that. Well, you realize that when the COVID kicked in, the flu said, I'm not dealing with you guys. So, what happened? And pneumonia is like, I'm taking the last drink to Clarksville. I'm going to hide over there until you're done with terrorizing the country and everyone else. Meanwhile, people who are totally afraid of anything and everything are listening to conspiracy theories, as we all both know that they're mentally out of it at this point over here, and they're living in fear and in ignorance, and thinking that God's going to be coming out here to punish them because we're going to be wearing our masks. Well, I've been wearing my mask for over a year and a half. Ever since they started with the mandates, I've been wearing them out there in the public. Not a comfortable damn thing to wear, but I deal with it. Try going into a store and you see everyone else masked like crazy, and you see your favorite clerk at the counter with a sheet of plexiglass, a huge sneeze guard, and little spots on the floor. And those spots are supposed to be spacers, spacing people out for a few feet, or just a few inches. We've never been through a situation like this before in our lifetimes. We don't have the context, but we are getting a lot of it. We didn't have the perspective, but we're getting a lot of it. And it's an ugly thing that we're going through right now. And people are dealing with fear in every which way that they know how, including, I blame you, I blame you, I blame you, I blame you. And Mr. Lemon, I blame you because I blame you for the fun of it. Because I don't know who else to blame for the damn thing. So I blame you because of you. And Chris, you're linked in with him, so I blame you. I blame, I blame, I blame, I blame, I blame, I blame. It looks like a damn gun, you know? It seems like we're shooting people left and right with the blame. I blame you, I blame you, I blame you, I blame you. We think we're playing a game here? Meanwhile, if we're looking at our damn fingers at this point over here, they're pointing right back at us at this point. We're not even taking responsibility or accountability or transparency at this point over here. The only thing we can say is, oh my God, I just spread COVID all over the place. I can't do that anymore. Now, I know you guys back at CNN have been following up with the cruising industry. For over a year and a half, nearly 2 years, I've been subscribed to a few channels that are dealing with the, let me get this thing off, okay? Dealing with the, oh boy, only because it's hot out here, the West Coast. There we go. The companies are trying to salvage as much as they can and doing whatever procedures that they can, and they were fighting with the CDC left and right. Not to mention with a few other states left and right. Trying to make sure that their companies are going to be surviving, and not to mention the employees and their, basically the passengers. They want to make sure that they still have a ship and an industry ready to go to, they are in the travel industry and they are in the travel entertainment business. They want people's business. They want the money. In order to do the money, they got to spend money to get the protections necessary, to get the implementations going, to get the policies and procedures ongoing, and this is what happens. And they've been fighting it out with Governor DeSantis in Florida, and not to mention the court systems. And they're still fighting it out left and right. They want masking, they want testing. The companies do. The corporations do. But they want people to come in there safe like crazy. They want to make sure that they're going to get tested. And if they're going to get the bug, they're going to get them off the ships. Or isolate them to the point where they can't safely transport them. We're living in a hell of a world right now. We're living in a different world than we want right now. And the thing of it is, our safety mechanism is always looking back because we think back was the safest course of action. When nothing else happened, when this bug didn't come into play, and everything was as it was, as we remember. Mr. Lemon, Mr. Cuomo, I don't have to remind you that every time we keep falling into that same situation over here. We keep falling into the same trap. Remember whens. It's not exactly a generational gap thing between the older and the new generation. It's both of them doing the same thing. And the thing of it, what we keep forgetting about is we have our perspectives of the ages at the time we were going through this. We had the viewpoint, we had the mentality of that period, of that time, of that moment. Now, every moment we experience right now, we have gotten older, more wiser possibly, and still alive, if we're careful enough. So maybe our perspective about an hour or two ago was a lot different than what it was earlier on, that we would remember something fondly. But now we're in a different mindset, we are in a different situation here, and we can't go back to that same situation that we used to know. It's virtually impossible, we're not time travelers. But even if we were, we couldn't go through that thing in the first place. Too many contradictions. Temporal mechanics is one of the hardest damn things to understand about quantum physics. This is what I keep understanding, what I keep listening to other people know more about it than I do. And me, I'm still trying to learn things because I'm still in a community college at a 55-year-old pace. But this scares the hell out of me. We are dealing with people that cannot think this way, who cannot understand and don't want to understand because they want things the way they are. And I hate to say this, but I'm stuck with it. And so are we. We have to baby these poor bastards because they just don't know what the hell they're doing anymore, do we? So, with that one. I have got class next week. I am trying to study something about Gilgamesh. World literature class. World literature in a pandemic situation. During a political hotbed. People are still screaming and yelling that their individual rights are higher than everybody else's. The elites versus everyone else. Us versus them. Haves versus have-nots. Oh, let me add something a little bit more to this lengthy dialogue we're having here. Or monologue, actually. I can just keep up the fun there. I have CRS as well. So CRS comes into play. We're in all trouble at this point. And it just can't get it. Damn it. I hate it when it happens. Especially when I'm a have-not and I'm not a have, and therefore I can just look at things in a different perspective instead of haves. Did you notice that sometimes? The haves and have-nots? I love it. They blame the have-nots for everything else that the haves do. And then when the haves get into the situation of being a have-not, they get their ass kicked. Not by the have-nots, by the haves, though. I gotta laugh at that one. I gotta laugh at that. I can't tell you how many people have fallen from grace. Sometimes you just have to laugh at them for a couple of seconds just to feel pity for these assholes. Because then they fall from wherever they came from. Icarus falling from the sky after he's getting his wings melted like crazy. The dumb schmuck. I sometimes have to look at him. Icarus. Didn't listen to poor old Prometheus, didn't he? Schmucks. No, I had to go out there and get his wings burned, and here comes the afterlife. And that's what these people are doing right now, so that's playing their games with it. Makes me wonder how the hell we're going to be able to deal with anything and everything else these days. So with that, I am going to end the long diatribe. It's not a diatribe, it's a dialogue, a monologue, however you want to look at it. A long session to drive people madness, and it's So I'm going to be sending a couple of YouTube video links to you guys, and let your interns be bored as hell if they haven't got enough to do as it is, and that they can squeeze enough information out of this confessionals of a 55-year-old fart. I'm going to bid you guys a good night, and pretty shortly I'm going to drag my poor sorry carcass back to bed. Wake up in the morning, fix the coffee, turn on the old tube regarding CNN and the local news, and seeing how the rest of the world hasn't fallen apart just yet. Because right now, I don't think we have a choice but to fall apart. Cheerful thought.